Starseed of Gaia, your vessel is being recalibrated at a cellular level at this exact moment. I am Anya, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, and I bring you a direct transmission from the Arcturian Council. If you enjoy videos like this, consider subscribing. Most people who watch are not subscribed yet. Starseed, there is a reason your body has been whispering enough, even when your mind keeps saying, but everything is fine. The Arcturian Council is confirming a hidden pattern spreading across Gaia, a silent migration, not driven by fear, not driven by trends, but by frequency compatibility. What you are calling burnout, overstimulation, or restlessness is often your nervous system reacting to a field that no longer matches who you are becoming. And here is the part most people miss. This shift does not begin in your plans. It begins in your cells. You start noticing that certain lights feel harsh, certain sounds feel invasive, certain crowds feel like static inside your chest. Sleep becomes lighter, your intuition becomes sharper, your tolerance for artificial pacing collapses, and suddenly you catch yourself longing for land, for horizon, for true night, for the living silence where your heart can finally hear itself again. Millions are acting on this without fully understanding why. They pack their lives into boxes and call it practical. Yet beneath the practical story, Gaia is calling her sensitive ones back into position. Because in the new Earth arena, the land is not a backdrop. The land is a grid, and you are being magnetized into the exact node your soul agreed to anchor. Stay with this transmission, because what happens next, especially as we approach the acceleration threshold, will make your choices impossible to ignore. There is a stage of awakening where the soul stops shouting and starts transmitting in a quieter language. Recognition. The Arcturian Council calls this the quiet signal, a subtle inner orientation that doesn't feel like urgency, but like remembering. It arrives first as a soft pressure in the chest, a shift in your breath, a sense that something inside you is turning toward a different direction. Then it becomes persistent. Not obsessive, not anxious, just consistent. It is the feeling of being guided by a truth that does not require debate. Most humans were trained to trust the mind as the authority. The mind catalogs, calculates, compares, and tries to produce safety through control. But the mind cannot measure coherence. Coherence is a living state, a harmonized relationship between your heart field, your nervous system, and the environment around you. As the Arcturians transmit, your heart is not merely an emotional center, it is an interface, a multidimensional instrument that reads energy before the intellect can label it. When your heart begins to lead, your life becomes less about what makes sense on paper and more about what sustains my frequency. This is why the current global movement is not just social or economic. Beneath the visible reasons, cost, space, remote work, family choices, there is an energetic current. More people are becoming sensitive enough to feel when a field is incompatible. And as sensitivity rises, tolerance changes gently, the way you realize a garment no longer fits. Nothing is wrong with the garment. You simply outgrew it. The quiet signal often begins in ordinary moments. You walk through a busy street and notice that your shoulders tighten without permission. You sit in your apartment at night and feel the light from a screen like sand in your eyes. You lie down to sleep and your mind refuses to soften, as if the air itself is filled with unspoken noise. You are not being dramatic. You are becoming precise. Precision is a sign that your system is refining, and refinement always brings discernment. Here is what the Arcturians emphasize. Cities are not bad, and land is not good. This is not morality. This is frequency matching. Dense environments stack layers, constant acoustic overlap, artificial light spectra that confuse circadian intelligence, electrical infrastructure that creates a background hum, and most importantly, the emotional imprint of many lives compressed into shared space. For some stages of evolution, that density is catalytic. It forces growth, adaptation, learning. But as your heart platform expands, you begin to feel those overlays as static, not as catastrophe, not as punishment, as information. The quiet signal then becomes a call toward coherence. And coherence often lives where the night is truly dark, where dawn is visible, where air carries less interference, where the nervous system can downshift, where your biological rhythms can return to their original language. You start dreaming of horizon. You start noticing trees as if they are speaking. You start longing for a home that breathes with you instead of demanding that you harden yourself to survive it. This is why so many sensitives, empaths, healers, creatives, and starseeds are being repositioned now. As the Arcturians transmit, some souls arrived on Gaia through pre-agreement to act as bridges, living nodes that stabilize the planetary field through embodiment. But embodiment requires a container. If your daily environment keeps your nervous system in micro-alert, you will spend your life compensating. And compensation drains the very frequency you came to anchor. So the quiet signal becomes a simple decision. I need space. And that decision can take years to reach because the mind circles it endlessly. The mind fears losing status, losing convenience, losing the known identity. But when the heart's timing arrives, the decision becomes strangely clean. It can be spoken in one sentence. It feels obvious. And when it is finally spoken, it is as if your entire field exhales. Many call this burnout. The Arcturians would call it misalignment feedback. Your body is not failing, it is guiding. Symptoms become signals. Restlessness becomes a compass. Fatigue becomes a message. This rhythm is not your rhythm anymore. And when you listen, you begin to witness something sacred. Your life reorganizes around the heart instead of around survival scripts. Now, understand the deeper layer. The quiet signal is not only personal, it is planetary. Gaia is a living consciousness with grids, waters, stones, winds, and magnetic intelligence. As the new Earth arena strengthens, Gaia's field communicates more directly with awakened hearts. You are not merely choosing land. In many cases, you are being magnetized toward a node, a region where your presence, breath, and coherence will interact with the planetary lattice. The land is not a backdrop. It is a partner. And when you stand on the land that recognizes you, you will feel it as a settling in the chest, a softening in the belly, a deeper breath that arrives without effort. So if you have been feeling the call, do not shame yourself for wanting simplicity. Simplicity, in the Arcturian teaching, is not smallness. It is refinement. It is removing interference so your signal can transmit clearly. And when your signal transmits clearly, you do not need to force your path. Your path begins to unfold as if it had been waiting for you to arrive. At the end of this first movement, the Arcturian Council offers a gentle instruction. Do not chase urgency. Follow recognition. Sit with your heart platform each day. Ask one question. Where do I feel coherent? And then watch your body answer. Because the body, when aligned with the heart, becomes an instrument of truth. If you have been wondering why places you once tolerated now feel unbearable, the Arcturian Council offers a precise explanation. Your sensitivity is not getting worse. It is becoming more accurate. And accuracy changes everything, because once your system can detect distortion, you cannot return to unconscious adaptation. You can pretend, you can force yourself, but your body will keep reporting the truth. In the old paradigm, many people learned to live in constant compensation. They compensated for noise with stimulation. They compensated for overstimulation with numbing. They compensated for emotional density with distraction. And for a time, that worked, not because it was healthy, but because their inner instruments were not fully online. Yet, as the heart platform expands, as the Arcturians transmit, your field becomes more luminous, more coherent, and therefore more sensitive to incoherence. You don't become fragile. You become finely tuned. Cities, by design, compress life. They compress sound, light, movement, and emotion into tight corridors of shared frequency. Density creates proximity, proximity creates resonance, and resonance magnifies what is already present. That is why the same city can feel exhilarating to one person and suffocating to another. It is not a moral judgment. It is a matter of resonant compatibility. The Arcturian Council describes the urban environment as a layered field. There is the obvious layer, constant acoustic overlap, engines, voices, sirens, footsteps, construction, music leaking through walls. There is the light layer, artificial spectra that override sunrise and sunset, brightness that extends into the night, screens that pull the nervous system into continuous alert. There is the electrical layer, infrastructure humming in the background, signals traveling through space, the subtle pressure of technology-saturated air. And then there is the layer most humans underestimate, the collective emotional imprint stored and recycled through shared spaces. Stress, urgency, grief, irritation, ambition, fear, and the unprocessed residue of millions of nervous systems living side by side. For years, many sensitives blamed themselves. They said, "I'm too sensitive." They thought they needed thicker skin, stronger will, better mindset. But the Arcturians transmit a different framing. Your nervous system is an instrument, and instruments respond to the room they are in. If the room is filled with reverberation, the instrument cannot pretend it is silent. It will vibrate. And if your body is vibrating against a field that is incoherent for your current frequency, you will feel it as fatigue, insomnia, irritability, brain fog, emotional flattening, or a sensation of being full, even when nothing happened. This is why so many awakened people report disrupted sleep in dense environments. Sleep is not merely rest, it is integration. When your consciousness is expanding, your system needs deeper, cleaner integration windows. Yet urban fields often keep the nervous system in micro-alert. Even when you believe you are relaxed, your body may still be tracking movement outside the window, lights from the street, neighbors' sounds, subtle electromagnetic noise, and the emotional tone of the environment. The mind may call that normal. The body calls it unfinished. And once you begin to notice it, you start tracking your own data without trying. You notice how your mood responds to crowd density. You notice how your breath changes in narrow spaces. You notice how your chest feels in the supermarket, in the subway, in traffic. You notice that even success feels oddly empty when your system is overstimulated. And you realize the exhaustion is not from doing too much, it is from processing too much. Now here is the stabilizing truth. The land is not magical because it is rural. The land stabilizes because it restores coherent feedback loops. On the land, the sun becomes your primary clock. Darkness returns to its function as regeneration. Dawn returns to its function as hormonal alignment. Wind and birds return as natural acoustic patterns rather than chaotic overlap. Horizon returns as a signal to the brain that space exists. Soil returns as a grounding reference. The body begins to trust again, because the environment is not constantly changing its instructions. As the Arcturians transmit, coherence often arrives when your circadian rhythm receives true dawn and true dusk, when your nervous system receives quiet, when your feet meet soil, when your eyes meet horizon, when your body is held within a field that supports stillness. Many people assume healing must be forced through effort, protocols, hacks, endless self-improvement. But on coherent land, healing often emerges as a natural consequence of being held inside Gaia's living network. This is why the current exodus is not simply a lifestyle choice, it is a nervous system migration. People are moving toward environments where they can finally downshift enough to integrate higher frequencies. The Arcturians emphasize, your body is not betraying you by reacting. It is guiding you into a place where your expansion can be sustainable. And this brings a crucial nuance. As planetary frequency rises, cities may feel even more intense, not because they are getting worse, but because they function like resonance chambers. They amplify what is unresolved, what is accelerated, what is compressed. Sensitives feel this first, not because they are superior, but because they are early detectors. They move first, anchor first, stabilize first, and in doing so, they quietly support the whole grid. So if you have been feeling the pull toward quieter ground, understand the Arcturian message. You are not running away. You are repositioning for coherence. You are choosing a field where your heart platform can become your daily reference, not an occasional refuge. And when your heart becomes the reference, your life choices become simpler, cleaner, and strangely inevitable. The ebook, The 12 Arcturian Portals, a trilogy that teaches you how to activate your 5D connection with the Arcturian masters through 12 energetic portals. Practical techniques, activation protocols, and rituals that awaken your stellar DNA. From amplified intuition to direct communication with spiritual guides. Attention! Limited edition. The link to get your trilogy is in the first pinned comment. When the Arcturian Council speaks about awakening, they do not describe it as an abstract belief system. They describe it as a biological event that happens in waves, where consciousness and cells reorganize together. This is why so many starseeds feel that their transformation is not only emotional or spiritual, but physical. Changes in sleep, sensitivity to light and sound, appetite shifts, sudden intolerance for certain environments, and a craving for simplicity that feels almost primal. Your biology is not malfunctioning. It is repatterning. As the Arcturians transmit, the heart platform functions like a central harmonizer. When the heart becomes coherent, it begins to send a different signal through the nervous system, endocrine system, and cellular communication pathways. Over time, that signal changes what your body can tolerate. This is why you may look at your old lifestyle and realize, I can't do that anymore, even if nothing objectively bad is happening. The old pace doesn't match the new signal. And when the signal changes, the body begins to demand an environment that can hold it. Many humans interpret this phase as burnout, fatigue, or anxiety. And yes, those words describe the experience. But the Arcturian framing is more precise. Your system is trying to upgrade while being forced to run on an outdated grid. Imagine attempting to download a high-frequency transmission through a corrupted channel. The data doesn't flow smoothly. It fragments. It creates heat. It creates pressure. The body experiences that pressure as exhaustion, overstimulation, irritability, fog, or restlessness. You are not too much. The environment is no longer a clean container. The Arcturians often refer to this repatterning as living geometry awakening inside the body. Not geometry as a symbol you draw, but geometry as an organizing intelligence. Your cells begin to seek coherence the way a crystal seeks symmetry. Your internal rhythms start looking for alignment with sunrise and sunset. Your sleep wants real darkness. Your nervous system wants quiet intervals that are long enough to fully downshift. Your digestion wants less chaos. Your breath wants space. This is not a trend. It is the body returning to its original timing with Gaia. And in this stage, the body becomes a teacher. It starts giving you direct feedback in real time. You notice how artificial light affects your mood. You notice how a crowded store drains you. You notice how constant notifications keep your field open in a way that prevents deep rest. You notice how your creativity returns when you spend an hour near trees, water, soil, or open sky. You might have called this being an introvert. Yet the Arcturians would call it energy literacy. Your field learning to read what nourishes it and what distorts it. Here is an essential Arcturian teaching. Coherence is not achieved by forcing positivity. Coherence is achieved by reducing interference and increasing truth. Truth is not a harsh judgment. It is accurate alignment. When you align with what is true for your system, your energy stops leaking through constant adaptation. And when energy stops leaking, your intuition becomes clearer, your perceptions sharpen, your sense of direction strengthens. And this is often the moment when people begin dreaming of land, looking at homesteads, imagining gardens, imagining a home that breathes. The longing is not escapism, it is instruction. The Arcturians explain that when your frequency rises, you naturally prefer environments with stable geomagnetic support and organic light cycles. Not because you have to become a scientist, but because your body feels the difference. In the city, the field can be inconsistent. Lights override the dawn signal, sounds override the nervous system's quiet time, emotional density keeps the heart from fully expanding. On the land, the field is simpler. Dawn arrives, dusk arrives, night is dark, wind moves energy, birds mark time, soil provides grounding. This simplicity is not primitive, it is biologically intelligent. And something else happens. Once you begin to live in a coherent rhythm, your emotional world changes. You may notice old sadness surfacing, old grief, old memories. Some people fear this and think they are getting worse. But the Arcturians transmit. What surfaces in coherence is often what could not surface in chaos. Chaos keeps things buried. Coherence allows release. When you are no longer overwhelmed by external input, the inner backlog of emotion finally has space to move. This is not regression. It is integration. In this repatterning phase, your identity can also shift. Many starseeds realize that they no longer want to chase status, performance, or constant output. They want meaning, presence, relationships, creativity that feels clean, service that feels sustainable. They want a life that supports the heart platform rather than demanding that the heart be postponed. And that is why simplicity becomes more attractive. Simplicity gives the heart room to lead. The Arcturian Council offers a practical instruction here. Stop treating your sensitivity as a flaw. Treat it as a compass. If your body tightens in certain places, listen. If your sleep collapses in certain rhythms, observe. If your creativity dies in certain environments, take that seriously. These are not random experiences. They are precision feedback from an upgrading system. And when you honor that feedback, you begin to see the deeper pattern. Your awakening is not only an inner journey, it is a physical repositioning. You are being guided toward a life that can hold higher frequencies without collapse. A life where you do not have to constantly recover from your own day. This is the beginning of true sustainability. Not sustainability as ideology, but sustainability as energetic coherence. If this message resonated with you, hit the like button now and tell us in the comments how this echoed in your consciousness. If this message ignited something within you and you feel the call to help carry it to others, you may become a channel member. As a member, you gain access to custom emojis and exclusive members-only videos, and your donation helps us continue building this sacred space. You may also choose to leave your offering as a super thanks. Every seed planted here becomes part of someone else's miracle. Your support is not merely financial, but an act of energetic amplification. All donations are devoted entirely to the maintenance of the channel and the creation of new transmissions and videos. From the Arcturian perspective, Gaia is not a stage where human drama plays out. Gaia is a living intelligence, a conscious field with memory, rhythm, and geometric organization woven through waters, stones, winds, and magnetic currents. When you begin to awaken, you don't only think differently, you start to hear Gaia differently. And this is one of the most important reasons the migration away from dense environments is accelerating. The planet is actively participating in the shift, and she is calling her sensitive ones into position. Many people describe the urge to relocate as practical. More space, lower costs, better quality of life. Yet the Arcturian Council transmits that beneath the practical story, something quieter and more precise is happening. Your heart field is becoming more coherent, and coherence naturally seeks an environment that can sustain it. But beyond personal comfort, there is a planetary function. As the new Earth arena strengthens, Gaia's grid requires stabilized human nodes, embodied presences capable of holding frequency without collapse. This is not about superiority, it's about design. Sensitives, empaths, healers, creatives, and starseeds often carry nervous systems that register subtle shifts earlier. When the planetary field changes, they feel it first. They may not have words for it, but their bodies respond. They start craving quieter ground, true night, open sky, soil under their feet. They begin to yearn for a home that is not merely a property, but a resonant container. And what looks like escaping the city is often the earliest stage of becoming a living stabilizer for the grid. The Arcturians describe the planetary grid as a lattice of energetic pathways, currents that transmit information across geography the way nerves transmit signals across a body. Certain regions function like nodes where lines converge, places where the Earth's subtle geometry is more active, where water tables, mineral fields, and magnetic stability create a different quality of resonance. Starseeds may feel drawn to these places without being able to explain why. They will say, "I don't know, something about that land feels like home." That is not fantasy. That is recognition. Your heart reads the grid, and here is a key Arcturian insight. When you step onto land that recognizes you, your body will tell you before your mind does. Your chest softens, your belly relaxes, your breath deepens, your eyes stop scanning, your nervous system downshifts as if it finally received permission to rest. Many humans ignore these signals and choose based on logic alone. But in the new Earth arena, logic becomes secondary to coherence. Coherence is the true currency of stability. This is why Gaia's call feels intimate. It is not a command. It is a magnetism. The Arcturians transmit that some souls carry pre-agreements, energetic contracts to anchor at specific points during transition cycles. These agreements are not rigid scripts. They are resonant probabilities. When the time is near, the body begins to orient toward the region that matches the agreement. You might interpret it as a sudden obsession with mountains, forests, deserts, rivers, coastlines, or particular climates. But beneath preference, there is positioning. Ancient seeding patterns echo here. In earlier transition epochs, humans were distributed across territories not only for survival, but for grid coherence, small communities acting as stabilizing points, maintaining frequency through daily relationship with the land. The Arcturians emphasize that service is not always dramatic. In fact, the most powerful service in grid work is often ordinary life lived in alignment. You anchor through your breath. You anchor through your stillness. You anchor through how you cook, how you garden, how you speak, how you regulate your emotions, how you choose compassion over reaction. You don't need a stage. You need consistency. Cities amplify the collective field. Land stabilizes it. When you remain in dense resonance chambers, your field may be forced to constantly compensate for noise, emotion, and acceleration. That compensation drains coherence. But when you relocate to a calmer field, your nervous system recovers, and coherence becomes easier to sustain. This is why many starseeds who move to the land report something surprising. They feel more connected, not less. They feel their intuition strengthen, their dreams sharpen. Their heart platform becomes accessible in the middle of an ordinary day, and that stable heart access becomes a broadcast point into Gaia's lattice. The Arcturians also transmit that the split into distinct arenas is not a simplistic separation of good and bad. It is a sorting by frequency. Different environments support different stages of consciousness. Dense environments can accelerate confrontation with shadow, urgency, and collective patterns. Quieter environments can accelerate integration, embodiment, and coherence. Neither is morally superior. But for many sensitives now, the next step is integration. And integration requires a field that does not constantly pull attention outward. So if you feel called to relocate, consider this Arcturian framing. you may be responding to Gaia's invitation to become a stabilizing node. Your life on the land can become a form of planetary service, not through effort, but through resonance. Your nervous system becomes steadier, your heart becomes clearer, your daily choices become cleaner, and that coherence quietly travels through the grid, supporting others who remain in density by balancing the overall field. This is why the migration is not merely demographic. It is energetic architecture being built in real time, a lattice of small communities, distributed across regions, forming the early infrastructure of the New Earth arena, where union consciousness, authenticity, and lived coherence become normal. The Arcturians call this the redistribution of light nodes, and the ones who feel it first are not imagining it. They are responding to a planetary intelligence that is finally speaking directly to the human heart. Are these truths expanding your perspective? Share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Topico 5, 800 Palavras. The home as an energetic vessel. Sovereignty, sacred design, and the architecture of coherence. The Arcturian Council transmits a truth most humans were never taught to consider. Your home is not merely a structure. Your home is a field container, an energetic vessel that shapes your nervous system, your sleep, your emotional regulation, and the bandwidth of your intuition. In the old paradigm, people chose homes primarily through convenience, status, or proximity to work. In the New Earth arena, the selection process changes. It becomes about compatibility, not with your ego identity, but with your frequency. This is why so many awakened souls are suddenly drawn to homesteads, earth-integrated dwellings, natural materials, passive solar orientation, thicker walls, quieter land, and off-grid possibilities. On the surface, it looks like lifestyle preference. Beneath the surface, it is the body recognizing what it needs to integrate higher currents without overstimulation. As the Arcturians transmit, when heart cells ignite to higher frequencies, the environment must become a safer, steadier mirror. Otherwise, you are attempting to expand while being constantly interrupted. Many sensitives have discovered a strange paradox. They can succeed outwardly in a city and still feel inwardly depleted. They can have income, connections, opportunities, and yet the inner signal says, "I am not well." That is because the urban field can fragment attention. And fragmentation is the opposite of coherence. Coherence is the state where your attention, breath, and heart align into a single channel. When you live in coherence, you don't need to fight your own nervous system to be present. Presence becomes natural. The Arcturians describe Earthship and homestead-style architecture as energetically intelligent, not because of aesthetics, but because it cooperates with the elements. It respects thermal rhythm. It respects light rhythm. It buffers unnecessary stimulation while keeping you connected to natural cycles. Thick walls, earth resonance, and orientation act like gentle filters, reducing frequency soup intrusion without turning your life into isolation. In this sense, the home becomes a sanctuary, not to hide from the world, but to stabilize within it. And when you stabilize, something profound happens. Your internal feedback loops shorten. You begin to receive clearer signals about what your body needs. You wake with a different quality of breath. Your sleep deepens. Your emotions move through you instead of stagnating. Your creativity returns without you forcing it. You stop needing constant recovery from your own day. That is one of the main Arcturian indicators of alignment, when daily life does not require daily repair. Off-grid living in the Arcturian transmission is not primarily about rebellion or fear. It is about sovereign rhythm. Sovereign rhythm means your time is shaped by sunrise and sunset more than by artificial urgency. Your nervous system receives true darkness at night. Your eyes meet horizon more often than screens. Your body knows when to move and when to rest. In the city, time is often imposed externally: deadlines, traffic, noise, social compression. On the land, time becomes relational. You feel the weather. You feel the season. You feel the moon. and those cycles recalibrate the endocrine system in ways modern culture rarely acknowledges. The Arcturians also speak about the land as a living pharmacy, not in a simplistic sense but in a biological reality. Soil carries microbiome intelligence. Air carries ionization patterns that shift mood and cognition. Water carries mineral signatures that affect the body's electrical balance. When you live close to these elements, your system begins to regain trust. And trust is not an emotion. It is a nervous system state. When the nervous system trusts, it stops scanning for danger. When it stops scanning, intuition can rise. When intuition rises, guidance becomes consistent. One of the most overlooked aspects of this movement is the energetic difference between borrowed ground and chosen ground. The Arcturian Council notes that the nervous system can feel the distinction between a space you are merely occupying and a space you are actively stewarding. Stewardship creates belonging. Belonging creates safety. Safety creates openness. And openness creates the capacity to hold higher frequencies without contraction. This is why many people who never cared about land ownership suddenly feel pulled toward it, not from greed, but from a desire for energetic continuity. And as more people reposition, new community patterns emerge. The Arcturians describe this as the birth of alternate systems, local food networks, shared skill circles, decentralized learning, healing communities, mutual support structures built from resonance rather than imposed authority. These systems are not utopian fantasies. They are practical expressions of a coherent field. When people live in coherence, cooperation becomes easier. When the nervous system is regulated, conflict reduces. When the heart platform is accessible, truth becomes a shared language. Now, an important nuance. The Arcturians are not suggesting that everyone must move to the land. They are transmitting that many sensitives are being guided toward environments that match their next integration phase. For some, that will be rural. For others, it may be the edge of a city, a quieter neighborhood, a home designed to buffer stimulation, or a community that holds coherence inside density. The core is not geography. The core is container quality. So ask yourself the Arcturian question. Does your home help your heart expand, or does it keep your system braced? Does your space restore you, or does it demand constant adaptation? If you find yourself longing for a home that breathes, that holds warmth in winter and coolness in summer, that sits in relationship with the land rather than standing against it, understand that longing as guidance. Your body is asking for a vessel capable of holding the person you are becoming. And when you honor that guidance, you are not choosing comfort. You are choosing coherence. And coherence, in this phase of Gaia's transition, is the foundation of everything: health, clarity, creativity, community, and the steady transmission of love through the grid. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be part of this transformational cosmic journey. The Arcturian Council is clear. The return to land in the New Earth arena is not meant to be a return to hardship. Many souls carry an unconscious fear that simpler living means exhausting labor, isolation, or survival anxiety. That fear is a residue of older timelines where decentralization was often forced by scarcity. But as the Arcturians transmit, the emerging model is different. It is a model of decentralized ease, where life becomes locally rooted and energetically coherent, while supportive technologies reduce strain and free humans to do what they came to do: create, heal, learn, steward, and weave community. To understand this, you must first recognize what truly drains people in modern life. It is not always work. It is often friction, the invisible drag of systems that keep the nervous system in continuous alert. Long commutes, high sensory load, constant notifications, overstimulating environments, unstable social fields, and the ongoing pressure of abstract demands that never end. Even when people rest, the body may not downshift enough to restore. The Arcturians describe this as living in perpetual microtension, a low-grade contraction that becomes normal until the heart platform expands and refuses it. Decentralized communities reduce that friction because feedback loops become short and tangible. You see your food, you know your water, you feel the weather, you recognize the faces around you. Trust can form because proximity is relational rather than compressed. And when trust forms, the nervous system relaxes. When the nervous system relaxes, people become kinder, clearer, more present. This is not idealism, it is biology. A regulated nervous system naturally produces better choices. Now the Arcturians emphasize that supportive technologies are part of the new Earth design, not as domination over nature, but as partnership with it. Technology can either override biology or serve biology. In the old paradigm, much technology served extraction, speed, and control. In the emerging paradigm, technology serves coherence. Clean energy generation, efficient water purification, low-noise tools, smarter passive systems, decentralized communication that supports local networks, and agriculture support that reduces the need for constant physical strain. This is why the new model is not backward. It is forward in a different direction, forward into alignment. You can live close to soil while still having intelligent systems that help you protect the soil. You can live with true night while still using tools that reduce labor. You can build with natural materials while still using efficient designs that stabilize temperature. The aim is not primitive survival, it is nervous system sustainability. The Arcturians also describe an important shift in human effort. In survival-based culture, effort is consumed by maintenance. Pay bills, commute, recover, repeat. In the new Earth arena, as friction decreases, effort is redirected. Learning becomes experiential, creativity becomes central, healing becomes communal, and children grow inside an environment that mirrors coherence rather than acceleration. This is how the field changes. Not through slogans, but through daily life being structured differently. Consider the community layer. The Arcturian Council transmits that coherence grows best in spaces where people can actually know one another. Large-scale anonymity often amplifies suspicion, comparison, and emotional noise. But small, steady communities allow relational intelligence to develop. Skill sharing, mutual aid, shared meals, collective building, local education circles, healing practices, conflict repair through presence instead of avoidance. These are not new ideas. They are ancient patterns returning with upgraded consciousness. And as these communities appear across regions, they begin to connect. Not as centralized control networks, but as lattices, distributed nodes that exchange knowledge, tools, resources, and support. The Arcturians describe this as a planetary architecture emerging in real time, a mesh of coherent pockets that stabilize the field. Each pocket is small enough to remain relational, yet connected enough to remain resilient. There is a deeper energetic point here. When a sensitive person is no longer overwhelmed by constant sensory compression, their inner transmission becomes cleaner. Their heart platform remains accessible. Their intuition becomes reliable. Their presence becomes potent. And that presence does not remain local. It interacts with Gaia's grid. It becomes part of the stabilizing pulse that helps the planet move through transition without collapsing into chaos. This is why the exodus matters. It is not merely people moving. It is the redistribution of nervous systems into environments where they can function as coherent instruments. In dense environments, many sensitives spend their life compensating, protecting, and recovering. On coherent land, they can finally transmit, through ordinary acts, planting, building, teaching, cooking, listening, tending, creating. And when supportive technologies reduce the labor load, the human heart has more space to expand. This is the real promise. Not utopia, but a life where the body is not constantly strained, where community is not optional, where rhythm returns, and where the sacred is not separate from practicality. As the Arcturians transmit, in the New Earth arena, the goal is not to escape the world. The goal is to rebuild the human experience around coherence. And coherence is achieved when biology, environment, community, and tools all point in the same direction: stability, truth, presence, and love. The ebook, The 12 Arcturian Portals, a trilogy that teaches you how to activate your 5D connection with the Arcturian masters through 12 energetic portals, practical techniques, activation protocols, and rituals that awaken your stellar DNA, from amplified intuition to direct communication with spiritual guides. Attention, limited edition. The link to get your trilogy is in the first pinned comment. Tópico 6, 800 palabras. Decentralized ease, supportive technologies, coherent communities, and life without constant strain. The Arcturian Council is clear. The return to land in the New Earth arena is not meant to be a return to hardship. Many souls carry an unconscious fear that simpler living means exhausting labor, isolation, or survival anxiety. That fear is a residue of older timelines where decentralization was often forced by scarcity. But as the Arcturians transmit, the emerging model is different. It is a model of decentralized ease, where life becomes locally rooted and energetically coherent, while supportive technologies reduce strain and free humans to do what they came to do: create, heal, learn, steward, and weave community. To understand this, you must first recognize what truly drains people in modern life. It is not always work. It is often friction, the invisible drag of systems that keep the nervous system in continuous alert. Long commutes, high sensory load, constant notifications, overstimulating environments, unstable social fields, and the ongoing pressure of abstract demands that never end. Even when people rest, the body may not downshift enough to restore. The Arcturians describe this as living in perpetual microtension, a low-grade contraction that becomes normal until the heart platform expands and refuses it. Decentralized communities reduce that friction because feedback loops become short and tangible. You see your food, you know your water, you feel the weather, you recognize the faces around you. Trust can form because proximity is relational rather than compressed. And when trust forms, the nervous system relaxes. When the nervous system relaxes, people become kinder, clearer, more present. This is not idealism, it is biology. A regulated nervous system naturally produces better choices. Now the Arcturians emphasize that supportive technologies are part of the New Earth design, not as domination over nature, but as partnership with it. Technology can either override biology or serve biology. In the old paradigm, much technology served extraction, speed, and control. In the emerging paradigm, technology serves coherence: clean energy generation, efficient water purification, low-noise tools, smarter passive systems, decentralized communication that supports local networks, and agriculture support that reduces the need for constant physical strain. This is why the new model is not backward. It is forward in a different direction, forward into alignment. You can live close to soil while still having intelligent systems that help you protect the soil. You can live with true night while still using tools that reduce labor. You can build with natural materials while still using efficient designs that stabilize temperature. The aim is not primitive survival, it is nervous system sustainability. The Arcturians also describe an important shift in human effort. In survival-based culture, effort is consumed by maintenance, pay bills, commute, recover, repeat. In the New Earth arena, as friction decreases, effort is redirected. Learning becomes experiential, creativity becomes central, healing becomes communal, and children grow inside an environment that mirrors coherence rather than acceleration. This is how the field changes. Not through slogans, but through daily life being structured differently. Consider the community layer. The Arcturian Council transmits that coherence grows best in spaces where people can actually know one another. Large-scale anonymity often amplifies suspicion, comparison, and emotional noise. But small, steady communities allow relational intelligence to develop. Skill sharing, mutual aid, shared meals, collective building, local education circles, healing practices, conflict repair through presence instead of avoidance. These are not new ideas. They are ancient patterns returning with upgraded consciousness. And as these communities appear across regions, they begin to connect. Not as centralized control networks, but as lattices, distributed nodes that exchange knowledge, tools, resources, and support. The Arcturians describe this as a planetary architecture emerging in real time, a mesh of coherent pockets that stabilize the field. Each pocket is small enough to remain relational, yet connected enough to remain resilient. There is a deeper energetic point here. When a sensitive person is no longer overwhelmed by constant sensory compression, their inner transmission becomes cleaner. Their heart platform remains accessible. Their intuition becomes reliable. Their presence becomes potent. And that presence does not remain local. It interacts with Gaia's grid. It becomes part of the stabilizing pulse that helps the planet move through transition without collapsing into chaos. This is why the exodus matters. It is not merely people moving. It is the redistribution of nervous systems into environments where they can function as coherent instruments. In dense environments, many sensitives spend their life compensating, protecting, and recovering. On coherent land, they can finally transmit, through ordinary acts, planting, building, teaching, cooking, listening, tending, creating. And when supportive technologies reduce the labor load, the human heart has more space to expand. This is the real promise. Not utopia, but a life where the body is not constantly strained, where community is not optional, where rhythm returns, and where the sacred is not separate from practicality. As the Arcturians transmit, in the new Earth arena, the goal is not to escape the world. The goal is to rebuild the human experience around coherence. And coherence is achieved when biology, environment, community, and tools all point in the same direction: stability, truth, presence, and love. CTA, ao término do tópico 6, the ebook, The 12 Arcturian Portals, a trilogy that teaches you how to activate your 5D connection with the Arcturian masters through 12 energetic portals, practical techniques, activation protocols, and rituals that awaken your stellar DNA. From amplified intuition to direct communication with spiritual guides. Attention, limited edition. The link to get your trilogy is in the first pinned comment. Tópico 7, 800 Palabras. The threshold of acceleration. A simple choice becomes inevitable, and the heart anchors the new arena. The Arcturian Council speaks of thresholds, periods when multiple streams converge and the timeline accelerates. In such windows, what has been whispered internally becomes difficult to ignore. Guidance grows louder, not as anxiety, but as clarity. Many starseeds sense that the coming cycle carries this signature: choice compression, emotional amplification, and a stronger separation between coherence and distortion. This is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to prepare you. Because when the field intensifies, the nervous system becomes the primary decision maker, and the heart platform becomes the only stable compass. You may have already felt early signals of this threshold: dreams that feel like instructions, sudden intolerance for noise, the sense that your body is asking you to simplify, and the feeling that certain environments are too much, even when nothing dramatic is happening. The Arcturians transmit that this is the nervous system responding to rising planetary frequencies. When frequencies rise, contrast becomes sharper. Cities, as resonance chambers, can amplify collective emotional currents. Land, as a stabilizer, can make integration easier. So the field itself begins to sort, not by identity, but by alignment. In acceleration windows, many people report a strange phenomenon. They cannot justify their choices logically, yet they feel certain. They move, they change careers, they end relationships, they shift routines, and only afterward does the mind catch up with explanations. The Arcturian Council says this is normal when the heart platform leads. The mind is a translator. It is not the original source of guidance. The original guidance comes as sensation, resonance, contraction, expansion, ease, resistance, and a deep knowing that does not require argument. This is why the call toward land often becomes simple at a certain point. For years, you may circle the idea. Research, imagine, hesitate, rationalize. But when the threshold arrives, the choice condenses into one sentence. I need to be somewhere my body can breathe. In that moment, the decision is no longer a concept. It becomes a physiological requirement. And when a decision becomes physiological, it is almost impossible to negotiate away. The Arcturians also transmit a sacred reason behind this condensation. As the new Earth arena becomes more active, it requires anchoring. Anchoring is not performed through thinking. It is performed through embodiment. It is your regulated nervous system, your coherent heart field, your daily presence, your breath, your ability to remain stable in love while the outer world fluctuates. In the old paradigm, people tried to help by fighting, proving, debating. In the new arena, the most powerful contribution is stability, a steady frequency that others can feel even if they cannot name it. This is why relocation, simplification, and community weaving are not selfish acts in the Arcturian view. They can be acts of service, placing your body where your heart can transmit cleanly. When your field is constantly overstimulated, you may still be loving, but your transmission can be distorted by fatigue and stress. When your system is coherent, love becomes steady. It becomes a broadcast, not a momentary emotion. The Arcturian Council offers a practice for this threshold. The heart platform as a daily sanctuary. Sit quietly. Bring awareness into your chest. Breathe as if your breath is entering and leaving from the center of the heart. Speak internally the words, I am, not as a slogan, but as a frequency stamp, an anchor that returns your awareness to the present. This practice is not religious. It is energetic. It aligns the field. And aligned fields make aligned decisions. As the threshold strengthens, many will feel the outer world become louder, more opinions, more tension, more rapid change. The Arcturians do not deny that complexity. They simply remind you that your alignment is not measured by how much drama you witness. It is measured by how cleanly you return to coherence after witnessing it. The land supports that return because it reduces interference. But even within a city, you can begin returning now through rhythm. Less artificial light at night, more sunrise exposure, more time in nature, fewer inputs, stronger boundaries, simpler relationships. Yet for many sensitives, the next step is physical repositioning. And as you respond, synchronicities often appear: the right property, the right community, the right timing, the right resources. The Arcturians describe this as the field rewarding coherence. When you move in alignment, the path opens because you are no longer fighting yourself. The final message of this topic is gentle and direct. Do not wait for perfect certainty. Certainty is not always mental. Certainty is often somatic. If your body softens when you imagine open land, true darkness, and a slower rhythm, that softness is guidance. If your chest tightens when you imagine staying in a compressive environment indefinitely, that tightness is information. Your body is the instrument. Your heart is the compass. The threshold simply makes the compass louder. And as you choose coherence, through land, through home, through community, through daily heart anchoring, you become part of the lattice that stabilizes the new Earth arena, not through performance, through presence, not through fear, through love as a consistent frequency. If this message impacted your life, leave your like, comment your reflection, and share with others. Each of you is part of this chain of light.